it's a big show.
Welcome to the Fade Route
It's a big bad show tonight.
with DNZ.
Yeah, it's a big show.
Here are your hosts,
Cracking up, telling them lies.
DNZ.
Welcome to the Fade Route with D and Z. I am D, and we got a great show for you tonight. We're going to go back over Black Monday. We're going to preview the NFL weekend upon us, all the playoff games, and the Yankees make an interesting hire. But we're going to begin today's show discussing the very last game of the NFL regular season. The Chargers and the Raiders met in a finale that had interesting weight. The winner would get entry into the playoffs and the loser would go home. However, if they tied, both teams would have gotten in. Of course, the game went into overtime. Thanks to a timeout by the Chargers, the Raiders moved into position to kick a game-winning field goal. With the Raiders set to meet the Bengals on Saturday, Z, I have to ask you, are the Raiders poised to be the 2021 Cinderella story?
Well, first and good to be back as always. The Fade Route. And honestly, I don't know. Because they're going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. You can argue that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be a Cinderella story. I mean, they went from the dregs of the division, the bottom of the bottom, being the worst of the worst, the punchline of jokes. And now, they're the next big thing, you know? They're the hot team right now. But, I mean, you mentioned it during the production meeting, how high the Raiders jumped. That was very surprising, for sure. They
Shocked
jumped
me.
it. They jumped ahead of the Patriots.
How are they ahead of the
jumped ahead
Patriots?
of the
What the hell is
Patriots.
going on? Who's putting this show together?
I don't know, but they are right now. They're 10-7. Rich Bisaccia definitely deserves. He definitely his candidacy for Coach of the Year. But I mean, they can, if they're in the tournament, they can do as much damage as anybody because the Raiders have the quarterback, Derek Carr. You're looking at 186, 2 touchdowns, solid, unspectacular, but got the job done. They have the kicker, which is critical in come playoff time. Daniel Carlson is one of the best. Say he's the second best behind Justin Tucker. Maybe you could put Harrison Butker in that conversation, but he was slipping and sliding all over the place, and he looked like a horse's ass. So, I mean, Carlson's up there towards the top in terms of kickers. Josh Jacobs had a heck of a game. If they can figure out the running game, the Raiders can be a dangerous out. But let's first go back to Brandon Staley's decision for that timeout. I told you in the production meeting. Did I not tell you? I told you he was going to do something stupid.
I didn't think it was possible.
He sunk to a new low. Dude, all you had to do was let the fucking clock run out. And you're both in the play. All you had to do. And you couldn't do that right. Brandon Staley, are you kidding me? That is comically bad. That is you should be coaching the Lions bad. Come on.
I think Versace actually said he's like, yeah, we were all set to go into we were all set to tie, and then they called a timeout. We kind of looked at each other and were like, all right, sure, all right, we'll run another play.
It's like you gift wrapped it. You're like, no thanks, I don't want this. Maybe next year.
It seemed like an episode of The Simpsons, right? It's like he runs over, Coach Staley. We are looks like we're going to be tying with the Raiders, and we're going to go into the playoffs with them. Call it timeout. Let's see what happens. Sir, you sure? Yes, timeout.
They'll never expect that one. Oh my goodness! But in terms of like the overall playoffs, like the Raiders are a dangerous out. The Bengals will be a dangerous out. I wouldn't really call them a Cinderella. They definitely they belong there. They had a hell of a turnaround after they got rid of John Gruden, and I could definitely see them, especially if Joe Burrow is not healthy. That's something we need to take into account, because if that knee is really bad, then you got to start Brandon Allen, I believe, is their backup. And at that point, the Raiders have this one in. Go mix in every goddamn play if you want to. It's not going to matter. It will not matter. If you don't have your quarterback, you're not going to win. So I can see it happening. It's a certainty. It's a metaphysical certitude if Joe Burrow cannot play. But what say you? What do you think?
Well, before I break into who I think the Cinderella story is, first of all, I mean, what's up with the scheduling of the playoffs this weekend? I mean, really, guys, we're going with Kansas City against Pittsburgh on Sunday night in prime time. Didn't we see this shit already? Like, why would that be the primetime game on Sunday? And then we have New England in Buffalo on Saturday night. Did we not learn from the first time not to schedule games at night in Buffalo? Like, who wants to see this trash? And they want to be all like, it's going to be the coldest game ever. I don't want to see the coldest game ever. I want to see a good game. Like, Dallas and San Francisco should be the Sunday night game. Arizona and LA should be the Saturday night game. Have the cold weather teams play during the day. I want to see a fair game. I don't want to see trash.
Yeah, honestly, if you're looking at this, then you would make the Monday night game Eagles-Bucks. But
right, and no one gives a shit. We know who's gonna win the game, right? Even with listen, I was kind of shitting on the Vegas Cincinnati game, but that's gonna actually probably be a good game. So you could even make them prime time on Saturday night if you really wanted to. But come on, like, what are we doing? And how are the Raiders ahead of the Patriots in seeding? Like, what are you talking about right now? Ugh. Get me fired up. Okay. Well, I kind of agree with you. I don't think that they are the Raiders are the Cinderella story. I think what could happen is Pittsburgh could become the Cinderella story, right? You first of all, you needed the Jags to beat the Colts in the last game of the season. Nobody had that. Okay, that happened, right? Then you had the Raiders and the Chargers go into overtime and pretty much become a Staley away from tying. And they don't. The Raiders wind up winning. You're in. Okay, now you got to go to Kansas City to play the Chiefs, which you played them earlier this year and they crushed you, right? Everyone's printing up pamphlets saying, come to Ben Roethlisberger retirement ceremony this weekend. It's awful. Retirement party this weekend. Awful. But the stage for this, right? And this is what happens is right now you get into a situation, Pittsburgh beats Kansas City, then you're off to face Tennessee, who you could beat. So I think that the stage is set for Pittsburgh to be the Cinderella story, but I doubt it would happen.
I mean, anything is possible, I suppose. I mean, think about the Chiefs' defense.
In a COVID world, anything's possible.
No, exactly. That's the other thing that we need to take into account. Like, we're assuming that all of these teams will have their full complement of players.
Right.
So, like you just said, in a COVID world, you could have a whole unit just completely wiped out. We saw that with the Broncos last year. to where they had to start a wide receiver at quarterback. Granted, it wasn't the playoffs, but still, one close contact can wipe out an entire position group. Not to mention, Travis Kelce was hobbling after the game. Tyreek Hill was hobbling because, I'm going to get on my soapbox. You were talking about that. Tyreek Hill, why are you practicing circus catches before the game? And you got hurt. You got limited because you decided you wanted to practice acting like a clown. Just catch the damn ball. That's what warm-ups are for you to get warmed up, not to show off. Show off when the pads and the jersey are on, but that's neither here nor there. So the Chiefs are wounded. To your point, I think it's possible. The Steelers definitely could, punch the team in the mouth. They absolutely can. That's the identity of the Pittsburgh Steelers under Mike Tomlin. They will punch you in the mouth, and they'll make you play a physical brand of football. I don't know if they'll be able to hang with the Chiefs for a full 4 quarters, but TJ Watt would definitely get his on Patrick Mahomes. I completely agree with that one. Another sneaky Cinderella team, the Niners. Like, who would have thought the Niners would be where they are right now? I mean, look, if you look at the NFC West, you have 3 teams. We know that division's loaded, but in a million years, I didn't think we would have 3 teams in from that division, much less the Niners. And they run the ball. They play very stout defense. My concern, as always, with that team is Jimmy Garoppolo. Is Jimmy Garoppolo going to hold up? Some of those passes the other night against the Rams, they were a little wobbly. They were a little wounded ducky. Can he last an entire game? And if he can't, you now are putting all of this pressure on Trey Lance. Is Trey Lance ready? Not even capable. I just want to know if he's actually ready to get out on the field in the playoffs and make it happen. Regular season garbage time is one thing, but to have the pressure ratcheted up against quote-unquote America's team, that's something entirely different.
Avoid messy accidents. Get better stopping power with your brake pads. Callahan brake pads. You never know when you'll be driving in the road and there will be a truck tire that you need to avoid and save your family. Callahan Auto. We really care about what's under your hood. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that. So, like, the 49ers, they beat the Rams on Sunday to punch their ticket to the NFL postseason. The Rams were up 17-0 in the first half and managed to lose 27-24. Jimmy G remains undefeated against the Rams. Sean McVay lost his first game after having a lead at halftime. Something like 47 or 49-0, something crazy like that. Did this game say more about the 49ers or the Rams?
I'm going to say that it showed you the grit and the determination of the 49ers, but we definitely need to tip our cap to Mr. Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford pulled a Phillip Rivers, right? Whenever Phillip Rivers is in position to get his team to win, especially against a good team, we saw it many a time against the Patriots. We saw it many a time against the Colts. He did just enough to get you beat. And this is let's be real here. This is the first time there's any real expectation on Matthew Stafford. You could say that with Detroit, when they had Calvin Johnson and when they kind of had a little bit of something, there was no real expectation. This Rams team is built for the Super Bowl. They were built specifically to get there. And as usual with Matthew Stafford, you can set your watch by his failure. That pick, I was sitting on the couch with my girl. I turned to her and I said, now is the time for the gut-wrenching pick. And literally 2 plays later, you had the gut-wrenching pick. and the game was over. But to me, it showed as much about the Niners as it did about the Rams, because Garoppolo, again, gutting through that thumb injury. Like, I can't tell you what it must feel like, because, you know, like, I have the full range and usage of, so I can't tell you what it's like to have to grip it in such a way that you're not worrying about your UCL or your tendon sheath or whatever the hell is wrong with Jimmy G's thumb. But you know, this week it could be something entirely different next week. But that's Jimmy for you. I mean, Ayuk showed up 6 for 107. Elijah Mitchell showed up. Their running game plays, and the defense is there. I'm telling you, like, this team with a healthy quarterback, they will be a tough out. And if I'm the Rams, I got to be a little bit worried, because, like, my team is vulnerable. And they're playing the Cardinals this weekend. The Cardinals, who have beaten them this year. So it shoots some holes in the Rams. It probably takes them down a notch in terms of confidence, especially Mr. Genius, Mr. Chunky Soup. You know, so to me, there's a little from column A, a little from column B, but tipping more in the favor of praising the Niners than burying the Rams.
Yeah, I've actually torn a ligament in my thumb before, and it's extremely painful. And it's hard to really grip things for a long period of time. For me, the game told me a lot, like you said, about the 49ers. I mean, I know what Matthew Stafford is. I've known what Matthew Stafford is for like 5 years now. We know what he is. He's gonna give it to you. He's gonna give it to you. He's gonna come on that Detroit Lions Matthew Stafford at any point in time. It's clear that that wasn't just like a Detroit problem. That was like, wherever I go, I'm gonna do stupid shit.
That train's never late.
Yeah, and let's be real. Jimmy G came back and delivered with an injured finger. He came back and delivered, and the 49ers have talent. They have talent at every position. Now, Jimmy has half a thumb, but we know now that they're capable of coming back if they're down and holding a team down. I mean, the Rams only managed to score one more touchdown in that second half. That's impressive. And they got production from players you weren't expecting them to get production from, like Jaquan Jennings. They're loaded, and I think they could pose a problem to whatever team they face. Now, it is a little bit surprising that they've only been in the playoffs 2 times in the last 5 years, and I think we all kind of wrote them off. But this is not a team that you really want to face. They seem balanced on defense, and I mean, Deebo Samuel, I think, led the league in rushing touchdowns. I think he set the record for rushing touchdowns at the receiver position this year. And, you know, he can come at it anywhere. So, but I think it's going to be, they're going to need Jimmy G to lead them. I don't think it's something Trey Lance could do.
No, I'm in total agreement on that. But kudos to Kyle Shanahan. You know,
don't do it.
Well, I know you're not a fan of Kyle Shanahan, but you know what? Compared to Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan is the goods. You know, he is able to adjust his game plan. Sean McVay knows one way to coach, and if it's not working, you get your ass Super Bowl against the Patriots. Yeah. So to me, that's just the way Sean McVay kind of runs his system. But Kyle Shanahan has been able to adapt. I know we mentioned that, you know, this team seems a little out of nowhere, but the last 2 seasons were so ravaged by injury that, you know, you almost forgot that this team was in a Super Bowl. This team had a lead in the Super Bowl. So, you know, they are as capable as anybody. And I think that is a testament to the coaching as well as the players. And like you, I really believe that they're going to be a tough out for sure. Looking to break into broadcast media, web development, social media marketing, or filmmaking? Then CSB is the program for you. From day one, you'll be trained hands-on by industry pros like friend of the show Rob Adams, whose goal is to get you trained and get you working in months, not years. CSB offers 8 and 16-week programs in small class sizes designed to give you the personalized attention you need. If you can make it in person, there are 5 East Coast locations. If you can't, they offer virtual classes too. How great is that? And once you graduate, you become part of the alumni network that gets you to the front of the line. Trust me, I'm an alum myself. Go to gocsb.com today, request more info, set up a studio tour, and who knows, you may very well be on your way to a career in broadcast media. That's gocsb.com and tell them Z sent you. gocsb.com. But speaking of coaching, Black Monday came and went, and it reaped the souls of a lot of coaches and 2 GMs, including Brian Flores of the Dolphins, Mike Zimmer of the Vikings, finally Joe Judge with the Giants, et al. Among these firings, did you feel that they were deserved, or were some of them surprising to you?
You know, everyone was saying that they were surprised by the Brian Flores firing. I wasn't surprised at all. The team underperformed. They were supposed to compete for the division title this year. They had 2 winning seasons. They had their quarterback Tua. They had Jalen Waddle. They had their defensive-minded coach, and they were terrible. I get that they rallied towards the end of the season, and they never gave on their coach, and that's something to be admired. That's really great. But ultimately, they missed the playoffs. They didn't do enough for him to warrant to come back, and he'll get another job. I actually think the Bears job would be a good fit for him. Even the Giants job, he's a New York guy, so I think he'll be fine. The one that really bothered me was the Rick Spielman firing. That was surprising. The GM of the Vikings, I felt like he built a good team. Like, that defense is a good defense. He drafted Justin Jefferson. He drafted Delvin Cook. He went and got Kirk Cousins. I mean, Zimmer sucked. You know, Zimmer was the problem there, right? Imagine you get Brian Flores on that team, right? To me, I think the Vikings job is the best job. Excuse me.
You know, I've been down. Made. I would agree with you on that. It is the most ready-made turnkey of the bunch.
Yeah, I mean, I've been down on Zimmer since he talked shit about Case Keenum back in the day. So I was really ready for him to go since like 4 or 5 years ago. But I do think the Vikings is the best job opening because that team is pretty much ready. And you're going to have Aaron Rodgers probably leaving that division, which should open the door for you. As far as well-deserved, I mean, Gettleman didn't get fired, right? He retired, but I think Gettleman and Judge were at the top of my list that guys just had to go, followed by Nagy and Pace. I mean, and it's wild because Nagy actually finished with a above 500 record, but I mean, there's a lot of talent in Chicago, and it just didn't play out at all. That offense is awful. He looked like Adam Gase this year. I mean, it was just that bad. I think someone comes into Chicago and they draft an O-line and they get a coach that knows how to coach a high school offense. They should be okay.
Well, you know, it's definitely the writing was on the wall for Chicago for the past 2 seasons. Like we've been, you know, since we've been on the air, we've kind of been on Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace for some of the stupid things that they have done and for the mediocrity that they have put out there. So I'm not surprised at all by Nagy and Pace going. I'm not surprised by Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio is fucking awful. And I feel bad for the guy because he was a lifer, you know? And it's going to be the same thing for David Culley in Houston because they're still on the fence about whether or not they're going to keep him. And he's been such a lifetime NFL guy that, you know, he's never going to get another head coaching job again. And that's really disappointing. But, I mean, all of these guys, there was cause. There was definite cause to fire them. Zimmer has been mediocre for years, like you said. Darrell Bevell, he's moving on because Urban Meyer, he shit the bed. And Shad Khan doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He went for the sexy hire, and ultimately that blew up in his face because guess what? College coaches usually don't do well in the NFL. Joe Judge and Gettleman. I mean, Judge sealed his fate with that 11-minute tirade about how it's no clown show organization. And then they went and shit the bed against the Washington football team. Just a lack of a better term.
The quarterback sneak. What are you doing? We're on our own.
It was on like the 4-yard line.
Yeah, we're on our own side of the field. What are you doing? It's 2nd and 9.
What are you doing? I get Jake Fromm is not a professional quarterback. I understand that. But you know what? You got to do better than that. And Freddie Kitchens, if that was your call, then good thing you're not coming back to the Giants next year. In terms of ranking these jobs, I'm with you. I think Minnesota is definitely up there.
Yeah.
Chicago is definitely more ready-made for sure. And then I gotta say Miami's number 3. You have a good solid core of players. I mean, you didn't need to kill Tua Tagovailoa's confidence with the Deshaun Watson shit. And they're going to revisit that. I don't believe Stephen Ross for a second when he says that he's not going to revisit the Watson trade or bringing Jim Harbaugh down from the University of Michigan. Particularly if the University of Michigan decides they want to move on from Jim Harbaugh.
Well,
It's one thing if he goes and poaches Harbaugh. It's another thing together. It's another thing altogether if Harbaugh suddenly becomes available.
I do think that was the main reason why Flores was fired. I think there was a disagreement on Tua's future. That's what I really, because you didn't fire him based off of, I personally don't think they fired him because they missed the playoffs and they had a losing season. Because the team did rally behind him at the end. I mean, it's useless, but that's the kind of guy you get behind. Like it happened to Harbaugh a couple of years ago with the Ravens, where they rallied and they made the playoffs, and I think that was Lamar Jackson's first year as a starter, where he came in for Joe Flacco and it's like, oh, we're doing good. It's like they rallied and they made some noise, but I think there was a disagreement. I think Flores was like, yeah, this guy can't play quarterback. Let's either draft a guy or trade for Watson. And I think Ross is kind of like, no, I kind of want to keep Tua. And I think that's where it is. That's just I could be wrong. I don't know.
If from an owner's standpoint, I have a relatively cheap rookie contract, or I have Deshaun Watson. I'd probably want to save some money too on the back end of that. But as far as the Jim Harbaugh thing, do you see him coming out of Michigan for any of these jobs? Because
not really.
Minnesota would definitely be attractive. He was drafted by the Bears, and a Michigan man owns the Dolphins.
Yeah, I don't see him leaving Michigan. I could be wrong. I don't see why he's gonna go back to the pros. He left the pros for a reason. I don't think his style fits the pros, and I understand the 49ers were good and they got to the Super Bowl, but his coaching style wears on people and it rubs people the wrong way, and I don't think it would work again in the NFL to a positive outcome. And Fangio will get another D coordinator job. Shit, he might go back to the Bears, right? And then, but Denver to me would probably be the least appealing job because
worse than the Giants.
Yeah, because the ownership there, I heard John Elway's are not really easy to work with, and they don't have a quarterback. Like they're the only team in that division that doesn't have a quarterback right now. Like everybody else has their quarterback. I mean, unless the guy's gonna come in and say, hey, I can make Drew Lock, a good player, but they're in the quarterback camp. They're gonna have to either draft a quarterback or trade for a quarterback. Probably trade for Watson, right? The Giants,
Watson or Rodgers. I mean, I still don't close the book on the Rodgers thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's another one. He could totally go to Denver. The thing with the Giants is it's the New York Giants. Like, it's like the Boston Red Sox, the New York Yankees. Like, it's one of the top organizations in football. Yeah, they've had a pretty bad 5 years, but they've also won 2 Super Bowls in the last 20 years. I mean, and you have the opportunity, I think, to go in there to talk with management and be like, yeah, we got to burn this down. We got to burn it down.
When the last 2 head coaches are 19 and 46, you have no choice but to burn it down.
But also look at the guys they brought in to coach. That's the other problem I have. These weren't good fits. These weren't good hires. You don't want to go get Patriots coaches. Even though I say Flores would be a good fit for the Giants, he established his style in Miami, and it was somewhat working. But for Joe Judge, he would say one thing and then go out there and do another thing. Like, there was no accountability on that team. He didn't seem like he knew what the hell he was doing. He's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, we hear about workout warriors all the time in the combine. He was an interview warrior. Like, he was so coached up in terms of how to get the job that once he got the job, he was like, shit, now what? Well,
the other part, I like we talked about in the last couple of weeks, I'll give him even the benefit of the doubt too. I mean, the team was hurt. The team was hurt, and Saquon was not there. Jones doesn't know what he's doing. Galladay was awful. Like, he had nobody to throw to. They couldn't do it. Blake Martinez went down in the first couple of games. Like, they had nothing to hang their hat on. So
Galladay had what we like to call a Michael Thomas.
Wow.
TDs.
Wow.
0.
Wow. Yeah.
Horrible. Oh.
Are you in need of air care maintenance or service? I have the company for you. Air Care Technicians. They service the Westchester and Northern Bronx area and can help you with all your heating and cooling, maintenance, and service needs. Just give them a call at 914-315-1547. Again, that's 914-315-1547. Or shoot them an email at aircaretechnicians@gmail.com. These guys are the real deal, as they are veteran-owned, licensed, and insured. Make sure to tell them that D&Z sent you.
But you know what wasn't horrible? The national championship game. It started out a little slow. It started out the battle of field goals, but Georgia took down the Alabama Crimson Tide 33-18 to claim their national championship. What are your takeaways from the game?
I disagree with you. I thought the game was awful. I thought the game was terrible. Like, my immediate reaction was, who cares? I didn't care. I saw this already. I saw it. Not only did I see it a couple of weeks ago, I saw it 2 years ago. Or 3 years ago in 2018. Like, I didn't want to see it again. Like, I felt like this was the result. Again, I felt like the results of this game were based on the amount of time that lapsed, like I spoke about earlier, like I spoke about last week. It's like, the last time they played Alabama was at the beginning of December. Georgia played Alabama at the beginning of December in the SEC championship, and Alabama waxed them. Now, we're 6 weeks later, right? Yeah, we're almost 6 weeks later.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, you're going to get both programs at the top of their game. I'm ready for you. And this was the result. You have Alabama's got a freshman quarterback, a freshman running back, and at the end of the day, nothing was settled. We learned nothing from the result of this game. It's like, okay, so Alabama walks away as the SEC champion, Georgia walks away as the national championship, and they're both 1-1 against each other this year. So what really got accomplished? And from what I understand, this was only the first time Georgia beat Alabama in the last 7 times they played them. Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus. Like, so we're 6 away from this actually meaning something. And then what? You got a, like I said, you got a young quarterback. Bryce Young is a freshman. And the game was close all the way really until the end, until he threw the pick six. I mean, it was a game. They were in it. I mean, Georgia's defense was dominating, but they were in the game. So we see Nick Saban is one of the best college coaches of all time. Kirby is a Nick disciple who will never coach at the pro level. I mean, hopefully we just don't ever have to see this again. I don't want to see them play anymore. I don't want to see them play in a national championship game. I don't want to see them play in the SEC championship game. I don't want to see Georgia and Alabama ever again. I'm done with it.
I got a feeling you're going to be seeing it for the foreseeable future, just because these are the powerhouses of the SEC, and the SEC is what moves the needle in college football. So unless Oklahoma and Texas come in and unless they establish their dominance. But that ain't happening.
They can't even dominate their own division. They're going to come in the SEC and dominate there. No, but you can hope for a resurgence in Florida, right? You could hope for an LSU resurgence. These things are possible. Because I don't think Georgia's here to stay. I think Alabama's here to stay, but I don't think Georgia is.
I'm not sold on LSU. I know you mentioned LSU. Like, as long as Brian Kelly's there, they're just kind of hovering. I mean, look what he did in Notre Dame. Notre Dame just kind of was like a program that was there, you know? Yeah. It went from, it's the friggin' Notre Dame Fighting Irish to, they're here too. That's lovely. But, a resurgent Michigan would definitely be helpful. Hey, how about anybody from the Pac-12? No. Anybody. Lincoln Riley. Well, I'm looking at you at USC.
Possibly. Yeah, possibly. I mean, the tides are going to turn. I mean, it just happens. Everyone likes to be Debbie Downer about it and say, the SEC is so dominant. It's just that this is the wave we're on, man. Like, I'm sure in 4 or 5 years, it's going to swing another direction. Clemson had a little bit of a run, right? Yep. They're not. They had a 3-year run. They were in the national championship for like 3 years, right? Because Lawrence won the first one and then lost the next 2. So yeah, and that was ACC. And then what? Jimbo Fisher had Florida State in there with Winston at one point. So it's a wave. It's a wave, and the SEC is always going to be prevalent. They're always going to be around, but other conferences will have their day.
No, they definitely will. And what they really need to do is make sure that they are out recruiting NFLU. You need to be able to speak to your program and really sell yourself on, we may not be NFLU, but you'll actually get a chance to play. How many of these second and third string players on Alabama would be starting? Most of them would be starters on other teams throughout the country. But Alabama is just so laden with talent because of their ability to recruit on the cachet of we are NFLU, that people will go there just to sit on the bench. I mean, I don't blame them, because now they've been to multiple national championships. They have one national championship ring. You have, you didn't even have to do anything. That's fantastic. It's like being Marty Brodeur's backup.
I will say this, though. I mean, I think this is the first time. Yeah, I'm going to say this. I think this was the first time Nick Saban went into the national championship game and he didn't have the best players on the field. I think Georgia actually had the more talented players. And this was probably the first time, maybe ever, that he lost with not the best players in his team.
That is interesting. That is very interesting. But that's also, let's give a little bit of credit where credit is due to Kirby Smart.
No.
Now, in the 6
I'm not giving him any credit. Absolutely not.
Here's my little bit of credit that I'm giving him. That in between then and now, he completely revamped the way they practiced in order to become more physical, in order to match up better with Alabama, and it showed in the playoff. It showed in the game. Like, they weren't being tossed around, they weren't being beaten around by Alabama like teams normally are. So there's something to be said about, like, we're not going to be afraid of these guys. We're going to go at them, and we're going to do what we do. And ultimately, they came out on top. So it's the same way we talked before about Sean McVay versus Kyle Shanahan, and Kyle Shanahan's able to kind of scheme a little bit better and kind of be more flexible. Kirby Smart saw that something didn't work, and rather than being the pig-headed football coach that's like the stereotype, he went back to the drawing board, and he brought something new to the table.
Another team that brought something new to the table was the Golden State Warriors this weekend. Finally, the long-awaited return of a Mr. Klay Thompson. How did you feel about his return, and was it everything you wanted it to be?
I think it was 900, something like that. Like that is
something crazy. Yeah.
That is a ridiculous number of days that been without Klay Thompson, and in 20 minutes, I gotta say he didn't disappoint. You know, a little. I mean, defensively he was a -2, but I mean that takes a little bit of time to get the rust off of. But he can shoot. He can roll out of bed, his leg in the air, like in an air cast or on crutches, and he could get you. He can hit threes, and that's exactly what happened. He was 3 of 8 from 3, 17 points. Most importantly, the Warriors won. They're looking whole again, and they are going to definitely, they are going to rely on him down the stretch, and it makes a dangerous team even more dangerous. And they don't have Draymond Green right now. Once they get completely whole with Draymond there, now all of a sudden you're starting to look like the Warriors of old. And the Warriors of old can still play in the Western Conference, and they can still take it to these other teams. And I can definitely see them being a big-time contender coming out of the West. And, it's absolutely within the realm of possibility that they can take them down. Anybody.
Yeah, I was happy to see him. I was happy to see him throw it down. I mean, he cut to the basket a bunch of times and didn't go for the finger roll, didn't go for half the glass. Like, he threw it down. And I thought that was important. And that's what I wanted to see from Klay. I wanted to see that you're good. You're all better. You can do everything on the basketball court that you need to do. He didn't seem as spry as he was like 3 years ago, but hopefully, he'll get back into that rhythm and he'll be the Klay Thompson of old. But I thought it was interesting. I heard something from Steph a couple of days ago where he was saying that the Durant Warriors would beat the 96 Bulls in 6 games. So he's saying the team of Curry, Klay, Andre Iguodala, Kevin Durant, and Draymond Green, which is the closeout unit for that team, would be able to beat Harper, Jordan, Pippen, Kukoc, and Rodman. I don't know about that, Steph.
My question to Steph is this. Which NBA are we playing in? Are we playing in today's NBA, or are we playing in the NBA of the mid-90s?
I don't think it matters. First of all, Rodman and Green aren't going to finish the series. They're going to wind up getting into a fight. I mean, that's going to happen, right? I would think Pippen would check Durant. I think he could do it. I think he would hold him under 30, which would be a great accomplishment in my opinion. And then you're going to have to put AI on Jordan, and AI can't guard. Nobody on this team could guard Jordan. You're not going to put Durant on Jordan because Durant's got to take Pippen. And then Harper was a good defender. Like, I'm not saying he's going to lock down Curry, but he also had height. I mean, Harper was 6'4", 6'5". He was might have been 6'7". Like, he was a tall guard. So you're not going to score over 100 points. So, I mean, and I'm not just trying to be a homer because that's my generational team. I just don't see it. I do think Klay would get a little buck wild on them, But at the end of the day, Michael Jordan's not going to let them lose. And they
No.
don't have. I don't think the Curry team has a player like that that's not going to let them lose. Like, you got players that are going to keep you in the game, certainly, but you don't got a guy out there that's not going to let you lose. Like, if I got to drop 50 tonight, I'm dropping 50. Like, that would have been Jordan's mentality, you know?
And if you want to think about this, right, in terms of like sniper shooters, as much as you have Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, give me Steve Kerr and Tony Kukoc.
Yeah.
You want to talk about tearing a hole in the space-time continuum? Steve Kerr the player against Steve Kerr the coach. Like, this is some Back to the Future Part 2 shit.
Is your hair thinning or is your hairline receding? Scalp micropigmentation will fill in the areas where your hair is missing by creating a short buzz cut look. Micropigmentation is a non-invasive procedure that will create the illusion of hair follicles for 7 to 10 years. For people with alopecia, this could be a permanent fix. For people with scars on their scalp, this is a great way to camouflage a scar. Don't lose confidence or feel like you need to wear a hat wherever you go. Marquez Studio is located in the Bronx and is open for all your scalp micropigmentation needs. Consultations are free and appointments can be made any day of the week. Get your hairline back with scalp micropigmentation. The techs at Marquez Studio have over 30 years of haircutting experience and can assist you with all of your questions. Call to schedule a consultation today, 646-221-8728. You can also visit them on Instagram at Bronx Marquez to see their gallery and view all their satisfied customers. Again, that is Marquez Studio, located in the Bronx, New York, 646-221-8728.
It's interesting to see people talk about different eras in basketball, but you know, you'll never know. It's up for debate. But we are definitely heading into a new era in baseball as the New York Yankees hire Rachel Balkovec to be their single A affiliate manager. What does this hire mean for baseball?
Well, congratulations to Ms. Balkovic, first and foremost. Former catcher at Creighton and New Mexico, has experience as a strength and conditioning coach with the Cardinals and the Astros, and then she's also been involved in Driveline. So Driveline is very big with the Yankees. They're the data driven, and the Yankees are all about analytics right now, and it's as much about the performance science aspect of it, of the analytics and the spin rate and the numericals, the numerical data, than anything else. So it's just, she's breaking down barriers just in the same way that Kim Ang did when she became the first female general manager with the Marlins. So I'm all for this. I'm glad it's at the lower minor league level, just because you have guys coming in from high school and from early college. So you're looking at anywhere between like 17 and 22-year-olds. You're not going into a clubhouse of like crusty veterans who might be chauvinist pigs and who may not, think kindly to a woman managing them. I mean, you remember Carlos Tosco with the Blue Jays?
Somewhat.
Yeah. Well, he never played. He had never played in the big leagues, and he never earned the respect of his players because he had never been there. Like, we are that far removed from that kind of thought process, and it is very refreshing that, we are able to get there. And for someone who never played the game at that level, I think it's a huge achievement for her, and it is something that Major League Baseball might go, more towards, especially when you take a look at other sports, right? Look at Becky Hammon. Becky Hammon was sitting on the bench 2 chairs down from Greg Popovich, one of the most trusted members of his staff. And, she proved herself and she proved her worth to the team. And she was one of the more respected coaches. So I think this is a great first step. And hopefully this leads to more of this, provided she's successful. I think that it's definitely going to, it's definitely going to be something that people are going to be monitoring, and hopefully it doesn't become like a media circus. But in this organization, I think she will do just fine.
Yeah, I really like her attitude. I really also like her journey. Just proof that if you put in the time, work hard, you can accomplish anything. I think at one point she said she only had like $14 in her bank account, and she had to borrow money from her parents just so she can get to spring training. A lot of times she on her resume just so she could get teams to call her. So instead of putting Rachel, she put like Ray, because it made it look like, hey, this is a guy, and she got some really good opportunities, and she made the most of them. She spent time in Australia, Louisiana, Nebraska, Dominican Republic, and the Netherlands. She's got a master's. She's committed to creating a competitive atmosphere, and that is what you need in baseball, because especially at the minor league level, wins and losses don't really mean much. I mean, what matters is that you're getting better, and you want to compete with other players, other people. Out of all the sports, baseball could use a woman's touch, because it's different mindset. I think baseball players have a different mindset than any other profession, and they're likely to respond better to a woman voice or a woman perspective, especially when it comes to numbers, especially when you're able to demonstrate to a player, hey, this is the ball you want to hit is middle in. It's not outside corner. Don't hit. And that's what he's going to give you. And if you can show that to a player, a professional, and explain it, I think they're more to get on board with that than if you were to, kind of tell a football player, hey, head for the sideline because you're not going to outrun anybody on this team.
Yeah, I do find it interesting, though, because I think if we go back, one of the first female coaches in the NFL was also a strength and conditioning coach. I think she was for the San Francisco 49ers. So I think it is an interesting parallel that is the entry point in, and then the branching out. Because she also, Rachel Balkovec, was also a hitting coach, which is a really, it's one thing to be a strength and conditioning coach, and, you're able to use your human movement degree and your exercise science degree and apply that, pretty universally. But to take something as nuanced as hitting and be able to teach that and translate that, I think that, that's a sign of her capability in terms of knowing the game and teaching the game. And I think that some point, over time, teaching the game of baseball needs to change, because we are in a very murky spot right now, because you went from the full-on kind of hit it where they ain't kind of style to see the ball, hit the ball, very, very non-analytical, to an over-reliance on analytics, to where if my spin rate is less than this, and you lost me already. So there needs to be some kind of, middle ground between the two. And I think that her experience at Driveline and her experience internationally is going to kind of mesh well together. And I definitely see her moving up the ranks very quickly. In the Bronx, I don't see why not. I mean, it's definitely, if she proves her worth in the minor leagues and shows that she is able to, not only withstand the media, but also show the results, I think the New York Yankees might have really stumbled onto a hidden gem. You can find the Fade Route on Facebook now. Check out our Facebook page, The Fade Route with DNZ. It's a one-stop shop for everything we do. Content, link to the Fade store, all of our episodes, you name it, it is there. The Fade Route with DNZ on Facebook. It's the In Route, where friends of the show get a special segment with us. Want to be part of the action? Want to be the newest member of the In Crowd? You know what to do. Hit us up, faderoutemail@gmail.com, or slide in those DMs on Fade Route Podcast on IG, or hit that Twitter, Fade Route DNZ.
Joining us on the In Route today, we have Jet fan and owner of Sweet Life Catering, Chef Tommy D. Chef Tommy D, thanks for coming on the show today. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
What's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, all right. So we're gonna jump into this early. Unfortunately, we mentioned your weakness during your introduction. You are a Jet fan. The Jets had a highly questionable season and off season this past year. The New York media has painted a picture of progress for the franchise. As a Jet fan, what do you see?
So what I see is pretty much the Jets being the Jets. They're doing, the same old Jets doing the same old thing, and it starts with poor leadership. From the head office to the coaching staff, even in the players, you can see it just seems like their heart isn't always into it. And especially the fact is that they're putting all their eggs in one basket, which is Zach Wilson. I mean, a rookie quarterback, he went to BYU, not a top, selective college that's going to be it's not like the Oklahoma Sooners where you're getting somebody great. So, for the fact is, putting your eggs in one basket on that is not the greatest thing.
Right, and it's something that we talk about on the show all the time. He was a very surprising pick, and you're asking for a lot from a young kid who he hasn't had enough playing time at an elite level, and he's coming from a smaller school where the competition wasn't, stellar. So, I mean, after watching him play this season, after watching Coach Sala, which I know you're not a big fan of, is it too early to cast either of them out?
I know you're probably not going to agree with me on this, but I think it is too early. I mean, coming from the fact is, they're both rookie. You got a rookie head coach and you got a rookie starting quarterback. It's too hard to say one and done. You know what I mean? You got to let them kind of progress. I would say give them another season, see what comes of it. I mean, will it be great? Who's to tell? You know what I mean?
Spoken like a true Jet fan. Haven't learned your lesson yet. I mean, through the ups and downs of this season, is there any bright spot? Is there any shining light that you look at and say, oh, you know what? We can hang our head on this?
I don't think we could hang our head on anything, but there are some bright stuff. You know what I mean? There are some bright stuff. Like, the fact is, the Jets started 10 rookie players throughout the season. That's pretty big. I mean, having 10, that's almost a whole side of the football. Just starting rookies. So hopefully they kind of develop The fact is that we have over $60 million in cap space. So hopefully free agency can help us out. And last but not least, obviously the draft picks. I mean, we have nine picks, 4 in the first 2 rounds. And, obviously in the first round, we got the number 4 and we got the number 10. So hopefully we do something with those picks.
I mean, we'll definitely see what happens there. We're going to get to that in a little bit more in depth in a second. But we spoke about all the GMs and the coaches that were fired earlier in the show, from Nagy to Judge to Zimmer to Darryl Bevell, who's filling in for Urban Meyer. Is there any coach or GM that you would like to have next season?
To be honest, not really. All the coaches that are out there, they're pretty mediocre at best. Most of them, I mean, yes, they have more season than Salah, but most of them are around 500 for their career. I don't think giving up on Salah is the best thing. I think we just, stick with him, and hopefully we just get better from there.
So no Jason Garrett understudy to Joe Judge type thing, just in case he gets fired?
No.
We said he was a Jet fan, not a Met fan.
Hey, but the Mets, it only happened that one time. And you know what? Jerry Manuel ended up replacing Willie Randolph. So, it's possible that it could happen. But speaking of possible, next year the Jets have 2 picks in the first round. You already documented it. So what do you want to see? Do you want to see them packaged and traded? Do you want them drafting? And if you see them drafting, who do you want? Who's your target?
All right. So I believe we keep those draft picks, and I think we go for a Nick Mangold, Kevin McWhite caliber center. We need somebody that can control this offensive line. We're getting better, and it showed this year, but we need somebody that's going to take control and really harness everybody in, and making sure that unit is ran like an oiled machine, So I definitely want to see some with a center, even if it doesn't come from a pick, hopefully free agency, but I'd rather a pick out of that. And also a cornerback, because we need some coverage. We need a guy that, I know we're never going to see a Revis ever again. That's not going to happen. But we need somebody that's going to stick it to the wide receiver, making sure they make plays, making sure we get turnovers. We have a lack of turnovers on this team.
Lack of turnovers, lack of playmakers. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dearth of skill, and it's definitely something that the Jets need to address, and we'll see what they do with that. But we're going to turn from skill position to quarterback as we get you out here on this one. Will Zach Wilson finish the season as the Jets starting QB next season, and will they bring in a veteran backup?
Okay. Well, it all falls down to this. Will Zach Wilson stay off of Twitter talking about what he's going to do and stick up to the field and actually do what he says he's going to do? That depends on that. I think, it's still too hard to tell. He's a rookie. I hope he gets better. I had hope for Sam Darnold to get better. He had some bright spots. So did Zach Wilson. So hopefully he doesn't take that Darnold or that Jets quarterback kind of aura and fall apart. I'm hoping he breaks the mold and he gets the job done.
I mean, in all honesty, he's just trying to catch up to his mom's popularity on social media. So can you blame the guy?
One thing I'm going to say about Zach Wilson, he holds on to the ball way too long. And then every time he lets go of the ball, you can see him, he's saying a prayer. He's like, I wish I might have this receiver catch this ball tonight. And it's just terrible. It's terrible. But again, I'm still a Jets fan, so the hope is still in me. And I hope he does good.
Totally. So we understand you have a catering business in Lower Hudson Valley. So feel free to put some plugs out there and let people know how they can find you.
Yeah, definitely. I do catering right now. Our biggest venture, and it's starting to get a lot of popularity. We do gourmet brownies, which we package them and sell them, ship them to your house. So you could check us out on www.sweetlifebrownieco.com, and you can place your orders right through there. And it's delicious brownies. The reviews are there. Everybody's loving them. So make sure you get your brownies today.
Well, you know what we got today? We got a new member of the In Crowd, Chef Tommy D. Thank you for joining us, my man.
Yo,
and hopefully we will
pleasure.
talk to you soon.
Yo, it was a pleasure. I'm glad I got to do this. And thank you guys so much.
Of course, man. Have a good one. And if you guys want to be featured as part of the In Crowd, hit us up, faderoutemail@gmail.com. Slide in those DMs at faderoutednz or Fade Route Podcast on IG, and you may be the next member of the In Crowd. Tommy D, thanks a lot, brother.
Yes, sir. Pleasure.
You can't help but smile when you see a balloon. The simplest occasion is a party. Westchester Pop Stars, located in New Rochelle, New York, offers balloon styling and decor for all life's events. Birthdays, anniversaries, weddings, showers, school and corporate events, store openings, or just because. Westchester Pop Stars takes balloons and shapes them into works of art, creating decorative installations for your special occasions. No event is too big or too small, and their custom personalization service is top-notch. Westchester Pop Stars is a private studio, quickly expanding. In-person consultation is by appointment only. Send an email to westchesterpopstars@gmail.com for more information or to schedule an appointment. No need to hire an event stylist. All you need is balloons. Currently servicing Westchester, Putnam, New York City, and Connecticut. To find Westchester Pop Stars, search for them on Instagram, Facebook, or Google.
The Fade Store presents the Alleged Superstar of the Week Award. All right, boys and girls, you know what time it is. It is time for the Alleged Superstar of the Week. Here's how it works. We give you our nominees. We put up the poll on our Twitter account at FadeRouteDNZ, and you vote for the Alleged Superstar of the Week, and they get to take home the ass. Who took home the ass last week, D? Do you know?
Oh, I don't.
It is Mr. Controversy himself, the guy who got banned from Australia, but apparently got unbanned from Australia and might get rebanned from Australia. One, Mr. Novak Djokovic. He's a joker. He's the Joker, all right. And yeah, it wasn't close either. But it's a new week. We have a new crop of nominees. What say you, D?
First up, Coach Brandon Staley. You are my alleged superstar of the week. The game going into overtime. The game's in overtime. You look like you're heading for a tie. You call timeout with 38 seconds in the game. Vegas coaches were very confused, so they decided to run the ball and get into field goal range and win the game. Coach Staley, you are my alleged superstar of the week. Number 2, Carson Wentz, 17 for 29, 185 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 6 sacks. In a game you needed to win to get into the playoffs. You lose 26-11 to a team that only had 2 wins. It's featured a game where the fans came dressed as clowns because they felt their team was a circus organization. This was a ticket for you to get into the playoffs, and you shit on it. Carson Wentz, you are my alleged superstar of the week. And last, and this guy seems to be a repeating offender on my list, Kyrie Irving. After Nasir Little dives after a loose ball, and you fall on top of him, you tell him that kind of play does not belong in our game? What game are you talking about, Kyrie? You just started playing basketball again. Kyrie, just stop, man. Just stop, man. Just go out there and play basketball and go home. Stop talking about the way other people play the game. You don't want people talking about you. Don't talk about other people. Kyrie Irving, you are my alleged superstar of the week. What say you, Z?
All good choices. I feel all of them have been on here before. There's something familiar about all of this. You definitely had Carson Wentz off of my list. I've been telling you about that guy. I've been telling you about that guy for a while. And I feel stupid saying that the Colts would win the division because that guy was the quarterback.
I think I feel. I had them going to the Super Bowl.
Exactly. Fool me once. It's not nice to fool people.
I don't know.
So shame on Frank Reich. Oh God. But you know who's laughing right now? The Eagles. The playoff bound Eagles are laughing their asses off at you, Carson. How do you like me now? Oh Lord. I'm alleged superstar of the week. There are many. There are certainly deserving. We're going to start with Joe Judge. For your desperate attempt to hold on to power by wanting a say in the Giants GM hire. With a 10-23 record, in what world did you earn that, bro? And not only did you not earn that, you earned a pink slip. So, Joe Judge, you are my alleged superstar of the week. Markieff Morris, for taking to Twitter to call Nikola Jokic a 300-pound fat boy after he delivered the goods to you in retaliation for the flagrant 2 you gave him. Let's not forget that Markieff Morris is the one who started it. And yeah, he hasn't played since. But guess what? Don't start nothing, won't be nothing. Markieff Morris, you are my alleged superstar of the week. And last but not least, the Edmonton Oilers, for even considering signing ex-Shark Evander Kane and all his baggage, from the domestic abuse to faking the COVID card, all of it. Your team, but I guarantee you, Edmonton, that ain't it, Chief. That ain't it. Those are our nominees, ladies and gentlemen. Take to Twitter after the show airs. The poll will be up. And for all of our nominees, just do better, boys. Just do better. Your favorite podcast has its own merch line now. Go to the Fade store with DNZ.com today for all your Fade Route merch needs. I'm talking tank tops, t-shirts, sweatshirts, like yoga pants, we got those too. Like some cool accessories, we got those too. And we're not done yet. We have so much more planned for you, but check out what we have today at the Fade store with DNZ.com. That's the Fade store with DNZ.com. Let's run the option and give you our picks for the week. All right, boys and girls, the option for the Super Wild Card Weekend. We are here. We are ready. The records are scrubbed clean. We are both at 0-0. As are these teams. We're starting Saturday, January 15th, 4:30 p.m. The 10-7 Las Vegas Raiders go into Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Who you got, D?
Such bullshit. This should be the Saturday night game. I'm taking the Bengals.
This is going to be back and forth. It's definitely going to be, it's going to be a slugfest. I can definitely see it going punch for punch. Neither coach has any playoff experience as a head coach. Fuck it. I'm going to take the Raiders. I think what little playoff experience Derek Carr has is going to be beneficial to him in this battle against Joe Burrow and the young Bengals. 8:15 Saturday night. The New England Patriots go into Buffalo and they take on the Bills.
Bills.
I'm going with the Bills as well. If it's a bad weather game, like that benefits
really cold.
Yeah.
It's gonna be cold.
Yeah, that's going to benefit the Bills.
I was interested to see that Damian Harris actually finished as like the most efficient running back this year. He had like 15 rushing touchdowns.
Damian Harris is a good running back, and when you pair him with Ramondre Stevenson, that's a pretty damn good combination.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a question of, is Mac Jones going to turn the ball over? And things aren't looking as great as they were. I mean, he's a rookie quarterback. There are growing pains. It's to be expected. This is a game that Josh Allen needs. This is a game that Sean McDermott needs. And you know what? Poetic justice. How about the Bills run the fucking ball down the Patriots' throat? I'm just saying. Sunday. 1 o'clock, the Eagles go into Tampa Bay to take on Tom Brady and the Buccaneers.
Bucks.
Not even close. Bucks are taking this one pretty handily. 4:30, the San Francisco 49ers at the Dallas Cowboys.
49ers, I'm rooting for chaos.
I'm taking the Niners too. I don't believe. I think that the 49ers are going to punch these guys in the mouth and give us the upset that we're hoping for. Your Sunday night delight. The Pittsburgh Steelers go into Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs.
Steelers, I think it's hard to beat a team 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely difficult to do that, but at the same time, I really think the Chiefs are going to take it home and send Ben riding off into the sunset. How about them Chiefs? And Monday night, Martin Luther King Day, 8:15 p.m., the Cardinals go into LA, into SoFi, and take on the Rams.
The Rams.
This is going to be a tough one. I'm going to take the Cardinals, and I think they're going to send the Rams home crying.
Hope you're right.
Me too.
This has been the Fade Route with D and Z. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Catch our podcast Wednesday nights on Anchor, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Until next time, stay faded, everyone.
We'll talk to you next week. If you want to get in on the action, we want to hear from you. Hit us up at Fade Route Podcast on IG, faderoutemail@gmail.com, or slide in our DMs at Twitter at FadeRouteDNZ. Questions, comments, picks, segment suggestions, you name it. We want to hear from you. Get at us, in crowd. Thanks for listening to this episode of our podcast. If you like what you heard and want to hear more, be sure to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Rate us 5 stars, leave us a review, turn on subscription notifications, and tell your friends. Spread the word, spread it wide.